Alrighty, hello everybody, and welcome to the introduction of the Mania 4T World Cup 2018. We are starting today with the group stage drawings as well as the group stage Mappool showcase. I will be one of the people commentating for you today, the Toaster, joined by Stupid Man, another member of the US team. How's it going?
Going pretty good. Actually, very excited for this tournament. There's really a lot to look forward to, especially compared to last year, and especially with the teams. And the fact that we're going to the drawings right away really makes it nice.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams this year that are just so close to the top. I can imagine that once we hit around final stage, contrary to previous years, we're actually going to have a lot of good matches.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I just can't even begin to imagine what kind of, opportunities might come up for even some of the lower end of teams that, you might not have seen last year or might have better rosters than last year, for example. So yeah, definitely stuff to look out for. But we are also actually joined by a third commentator today, which I guess is a bit unorthodox, but still we're joined here by Juan Crystal, if you want to say hi.
Hello, I'm Juan. For the people that don't know me, I am organizing the tournament and alongside Deadbeat and previously Happy Stick. And yeah, we're here for the light drawings of the Mania 4T World Cup, and I'm pretty excited, honestly. Even the low seed and non-seed teams are looking very strong, so might as well just jump right into the light drawings and get it rolling.
Yeah, definitely. Anyway, seems like I'm not sure if we'll probably get the audio volume definitely fixed very soon, but anyways, going into our no-seeded teams here. I mean, I think there's a couple in particular that actually I'm not sure how to word it. It's just that their teams, I think, despite being maybe a bit one-sided, they definitely have a lot of star players on it. You have Norway with Stein, I think you have Netherlands with Mr. Gon too. You've got Venezuela with Isis. So there's really a lot to look forward to, even with the no-seeded teams here.
Yeah, and these 8 no-seeded teams do consist of Finland, Taiwan, Norway, Netherlands, Peru, Venezuela, Hong Kong, and Macau. These 8 will be separated into the different groups, and following their separation, we will be going up to the low seeds, high seeds, and top seeds.
Yeah, definitely. And man, I'm just thinking, because these teams, I mean, I think right now like I said, they still have impressive players, but the fact that they just get more and more impressive as it keeps going up is pretty nice to see.
Yeah, as we go further up, I'm sure that even when we get to the no seed or the low seeds, we'll be seeing teams that have 3 players or more that are just solid enough at group stages that they could easily cause an upset. And that's really nice to see in the Mania World Cup, because we saw it a bit last year, but the fact that it's getting even better in that respect is really nice to see.
Oh yeah, and I mean, like you said, there are potentials for upsets here, and I mean, I don't think that's even limited to just no seed and the low seed and stuff like that. But low seeds may be potentially upsetting the high seeds here, which I think there is a significant gap between those two. But we've got, I don't want to exactly, I guess, throw labels on certain teams, because I mean, I'm pretty sure I'll be surprised by any team's performance this tournament. But I think some of the higher level low seed teams, and I guess maybe the less consistent high seed teams, are going to have, if they end up going against each other, it'll be quite the matchup.
Yeah, for sure. But we should, I believe, soon be getting into actually putting these teams into their groups, and we can discuss more specifically how the players in each team will likely perform at the group stage level, and if they're able to pull off some really good performances, how they might, perform down the line.
Yep, and here we go. Spinning right now. First team getting Group A. First seed selected to the tournament is going to be Peru. I believe it's Akuma is actually, I believe, a star player of that roster. Really. So he's definitely going to be someone to look out for when you're watching those Peru. That's not to mention the other teammates they have as well on that team. And that would be the 05, the Cube, and Ovento 17, or I guess DS7, if you want to go that way.
Yep.
But yeah, that's a pretty decent. It's pretty all right for no seeded, I think.
Yeah, but moving on to Group B, spinning for this second no seeded spot is going to be Taiwan. A team led by Sakaki with members Sakuralan, MSP Stami, Tamamo Desu, Red Mewtwo, and Lucky Gino.
Yeah, Taiwan, I think, judging by their ranks, are one of the more consistent no-seeded teams. It's just that I think they don't exactly have stellar performance, which is why they end up in the seeding. But overall, still consistent, and that might prove to be really important for group stage.
Yeah, I think consistency can be something you can really look out for, especially in the lower seeded teams, as qualities that'll just, propel them further in their matches, which might not help them later on in like bracket stage, but certainly in group stage, you can do a lot of damage just with some consistency.
Yep, coming into our next team here for Group C, we've got Finland. That team actually, so Camel Poltergeist probably being the big guy there.
Yeah.
And I believe Yarn Twist X. That team actually could be one to look out for if you are low seeded. So definitely keep an eye here on Group C.
Yeah, their accuracy is definitely really solid, with the leader of Camel Poltergeist having absolutely insane accuracy up to a certain point. So they're gonna likely want to take advantage of that and the consistency that's shown by him. But the other 5 players definitely are going to be able to help back him up at least somewhat in the early stages of the tournament.
Yep. So next team here.
We've got the Netherlands, led by Mr. Don 2, with teammates The Snooper PS, Redinor, Freak, Boots, and Too Fast For You 98. All people I've seen perform in tournaments pretty well in the early stages, or at least a few of them I have. And Mr. Don 2 definitely going to be able to hold on to a pretty significant amount of accuracy in the early game. So if they're able to take advantage of that and have the proper backup, they definitely can put up fights against a lot of the lower seeded teams.
Yeah, and I'm definitely guessing Too Fast For You also won't really fall too far behind as well. So really just, so far all these teams, we've got consistent teams pretty much across the board here. And that alone is probably scary for group stage.
Yeah, I think a lot of what we're going to see in the no seeds just from here on out is just most of them are consistent, just they might not match up to the lower seeds or high seeds in terms of their capabilities when it comes to round of 16 and beyond.
Yeah, definitely. Our next team here gonna be Norway. Bit of an exciting one here. Stein, Bizarrely Fast, Karlef, Falnir, Jessen, I guess, and Hig. All of these guys actually, but particularly Stein and Bizarrely Fast, those two are stellar players. Stellar. The issue I think comes is when it gets off of sort of the Rice regular speed stuff and it goes towards like LNs, SVs, sort of the anti-meta stuff. So definitely a weakness of Norway, but if you're gonna look at their Rice scores, that'll just be unreal to watch. So really look out for Group B if you're interested for Rice.
And on to Group F, we've got Venezuela being the choice here. A team that consists of Nakatoru, Azlak, Edvo, Chichinya, Gearfrick, and Jesus, I guess. I don't know how to pronounce that, but
I think it's easy.
Yeah, that's correct. Yep.
But I'd say that these the players on this team are generally not the strongest around, at least when it comes to later on stuff. But when it comes to the early end stuff, their LNs seem to be pretty solid in general. So they're going to be able to take advantage of the teams that are weaker on the LN accuracy front.
And I do want to note that Yeezus as a player is going to be very, very strong. If they manage to make it pretty far in the tournament, they will really, really shine at Yeezus. But our next team here, Hong Kong, bit of a, I guess, lesser roster than they had last year. This year coming in with Mooncha, NG051106, Opian, and Snownote. Snownote actually not making an appearance in a while, but we'll be excited to see him play again. I think last year they had 0-2 Snow, which is what made their team really nice and actually led them to round of 16. So we'll see if they're able to make it there again this year. I can't really say much beyond that.
Yeah, they are missing 0-2 Snow from last year, as well as Drunkenstein, who is another very solid player. But with that, we go on to the final group being occupied by Macau, Juan Crystal's
Only
favorite
African team in
country.
this tournament, yeah.
Yes, you're correct. You talk about Macau though this time.
All
All
right,
right, well,
Macau
I mean, we
team
can correct ourselves and say it's not an African team to start.
Yeah, for those who are wondering.
Yeah, just to make sure people don't think we actually think that. But okay, Macau's team members: ID Q's 123, HH 27V5 Fangirl, Capchon, and My2 Tick. And then it seems that their team captain is pretty good at LNs in general, which will be useful, like I said, as some of the other no-seeded teams could use that to their advantage against the players that aren't so strong at it or consistent at it early on. But other than that, they're going to have to pretty much scrounge out what kinds of skills they're going to be able to really showcase when it comes to their matches against the other teams.
Yep, that sounds about right. But we're going to be moving on to our low seeds here. So the teams start to get a bit of a step up. We got Argentina, Russia, Spain, Philippines, Switzerland, I believe Thailand, Germany, and Denmark. Does that round it out? Yes, it does.
Yes,
so
that is
we've got
correct.
bit of a actually a couple of these teams are going to be really scary, I think, if you get matched up against them. I believe Thailand even in particular. But moving into our group A here, we'll see what Peru gets matched up with.
Oh.
Okay, yeah.
Speak of the devil.
Just as I was saying that, Thailand probably, I would say, the best LN team in low seed for sure. Coming in with Lost Cool, who already is I would argue, a legend. Forky Scrub, Sharp Kung 1412, Boss Battle, Mysterion, and Daniel TH. Very, very, very solid roster. I think they're only going to fall short potentially with accuracy, but if they could push through that, they have, depending on their high-seeded team they get placed with, they have a shot at getting around a 16 here.
Yeah, they're going to have to watch out for their early game, like speed and tech accuracy, but their LN and SV should be solid enough to at least take points and put up fights against some of the high seeds.
Yep, definitely.
And matched up with Taiwan is Argentina, another one of a favorites by Juan Crystal, led by Lucas XL, Bub Shish, Fisk, Abyss, Vortical X, and Boss Plays 02. It's a team that's pretty well-rounded, but also tends to be somewhat weak in a lot of accuracy departments. So they're going to have to overcome their deficits when it comes to their early game in order to be able to show off what they can do later on.
I will be careful with those words. You have not seen these Argentinian players perform. They are not as known as people think they are. Boss Plays has been getting pretty good at the game, and especially in accuracy. Actually, he's sniping some of my old scores, and that's saying something. Avis is Alu. Lucas is also pretty decent. I think Argentina is one of those overlooked low seeds and could cause trouble to certain high seeds. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think they'll be cutting it close with a couple teams, and I mean, even last year they took a point off. So, yeah, they put up a very strong performance. I think it's just a matter of, like I said, the same thing with Thailand. Like, what kind of high seed team they get paired up with. But moving on to our Group C pick here, would be interesting to see Denmark just for the Scandinavia look. And actually, we could get Sweden high seed too. But all right, not gonna happen today. Philippines for Group C. I would argue maybe not the best their roster's been, but they still this year have Arquin Olivirus, Search285, Just Call Me Ron, Toyohime, Cielode, and Onion. And they actually have, I think, probably a solid LN roster. Like that's what's really screaming out to me right now, especially with Arquin, Search285, Just Call Me Ron, and Cielode. So that's already 4 players right there that you really have to be looking out for. That's if you're playing LNs though. So if you're trying to really target something else for Philippines, maybe stray away from there. But other than that, yeah, Philippines roster gonna be a solid set to Group C for sure.
Moving on to Group D. Team going to be matched up with the Netherlands is Germany. They've got a stronger team than last year for sure, so they've definitely shown some improvements. I gotta find the roster.
It's Malox. There we go. Electrian, Dom, Tiro 901, Netters, and Last Exceed.
Someone has been coding lately.
Yeah. Just
it's
thinking
hard
about...
to say a lot of these players because I guess a lot of them I don't personally know about. I know that Last Exceed is pretty well known being one of the only fade-in players in the world, and he's pretty good later on. But because of that fade-in, it can be pretty hard to, have as high of accuracy. But there are people like Malox and Dom who are going to be able to pick him up in the early rounds. So it's really about whether they're going to be able to take advantage of the different, I guess skills that the players have, even if not all of them are going to be the best when it comes to group stage and the earlier charts.
Yeah, like it's really just going to come down to the accuracy for them. But moving on to Group E, Switzerland going to be facing off against Norway here. Switzerland actually being, I believe, a Cairo, a Propera, Gamer 97, and one more. I think I might be good.
There are
actually 6 actually.
3. Yeah, there's a whole team.
Wow, all right.
Other 3 are 8 or
Monagai. Man. So that's actually, yeah, I'm used to them having not a full roster. This is going to be interesting to see. I think mostly, though, you're really going to have to look out for their LNs. Because Akero and Gamer 97 coming from 7 key and being LN players themselves, or at least being pretty adept at LNs, really makes that team strong in that aspect. But it's really gonna come down to accuracy for them, just like Germany here. Really gonna have to shine there, and if they can't, they're gonna probably struggle to get out of groups.
Yeah, I think that's the thing we've been seeing with the lower seeds is that a lot of them seem to struggle with or have more weaknesses on accuracy than they do when it comes on like the later speed and later LN stuff. But for Group F, we have Denmark getting the spot with Venezuela, led by Joel with members Freaky Hands, Mart732C, Tails DK, Ainura, and Zygel Rocks. They have a pretty solid accuracy roster actually, so their early on game will likely be pretty scary for the high seeds that they go up against. And given that a couple of them are 7 key mains, I wouldn't be surprised if they had a pretty solid LN game as well. So they have plenty of area to take advantage of weaknesses from the higher seeded teams.
Yeah, absolutely. But moving on to Group G here, either Russia or Spain. I think either way it wouldn't really matter. Both teams are actually pretty even in terms of skill sets, but Russia being picked against Hong Kong here. I believe Russia is actually a lot more speed-oriented. I know one of their players, Angelo Lagusu, who happens to be the team captain, is actually very, very solid at later game right stuff. But other than that, they have a Jormungand. I don't want to say it on stream. Pegasarn, Claire, and Mazafuker 1337, which is a great name. It's also in all caps. But anyways, like I said, very strong in Rice, at least later game. Not sure about the early game though. It's really gonna come down to accuracy there. But I'll let you take Group H here, Tough.
Yeah, it is going to be Spain joining Macau in Group H. Team leader Itor98, who's arguably one of, I think, the strongest player in any of the low-seeded teams. He has pretty much some of the strongest LN game out of a lot of the players in the tournament in general. And with his teammates backing him up on that front, he's gonna have to hope he can carry his way through at least part of the group stage, but gonna need the backup from his teammates in order to be able to really show off what he can do in the later stages.
Yep, and that'll round it out for our low seeds. Now this is where the teams get pretty high seeded here.
So the next 16 teams we'll be seeing in general are all going to be. I would say that there's not a huge skill gap between the next 16 teams.
Oh yeah, definitely. I like, you could definitely see the gap between the bottom 16 and the top 16, but here's gonna be nuts. We've got Singapore, Australia, Italy, Malaysia, Poland, France, China, Sweden, and I mean, these teams
Singapore
are...
and Australia and Italy.
Oh yeah, and again. Yeah, but I mean, these teams provide such a different playing field compared to the ones we just saw, and this is what makes it tough for even, I would argue, some of the top seeds this year.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of these teams that are just extremely strong when it comes to accuracy, and given that, especially with group stage having the easiest maps that we'll be seeing in the tournament, there's so much opportunity for teams to just take points and take matches against the top seeds. There's an opportunity this year for a lot of upsets.
Oh yeah, definitely. Don't even get me started. I can already point, a couple teams here that definitely are going to provide a lot of struggles for maybe a couple top seeded teams here. So moving into Group A, Malaysia. Ouch. This is going to be more of an LN oriented group already, I can see. That might have... I feel like looking at it, Malaysia might be like a better oriented, maybe better well-rounded version of Thailand, if you want to put it that way, where they're probably shining skill set would likely be LNs, and followed suit by maybe Rice, and then potentially SVs if they really do practice it. But really, like, that's going to be a tough group if the top seeded team cannot do LNs. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, their general accuracy is also pretty insane, having Minisora and Chiwi in the background with Neokje leading them off. That is a solid roster of 3 for group stage. And then topping it off with X-Ray, Watarakisa, and Kirito Low. Not a team you really want to see in group stage.
Yeah, and I mean, X-Ray having pretty decent LN ability already, and then Watarakisa just, I mean, he's played multiple World Cups already. He's a hardened vet. He can definitely play this game, and he is scary. Very, very, very scary.
Oh, I was about to say Italy.
And Group B, getting Italy to face Argentina and Taiwan. Italy definitely showing off with their late game capabilities with a couple of their players, notably Yomiel. I believe that is a very well-known Italian player that I cannot remember the name of.
Krybov?
Krybov fanboy.
Both Krybov and Krybov fanboy are pretty good at the game, yeah.
Yeah. They've got some really, really solid late game. I'm personally not fully aware of their early game capabilities, though. Do you have anything to add?
Oh, I I have no idea. That's what makes Italy scary for me. I'm not 100% sure on their capabilities. It's really going to come down to just who really preps, who shows up, and who has that good kind of accuracy. And I'm not sure. If they put it to practice, they could definitely be very good at Group C. Let's just put it that way.
And going into Group C with Finland and the Philippines, we have Poland joining them with Tida, Kudanom, Crowley, Arkatev, Underjoy, and Agnes, or for Agonies.
Yeah, so the nice thing about Group C actually is that we've got 2 European teams and 2 Southeast Asian teams, because Indonesia will be picked for top seed.
Exactly.
That's
It's
actually
already
good.
been chosen.
Yeah, it's already been chosen. We already know what's gonna happen.
It's rigged. Sorry, guys.
It's totally not scripted, guys.
That actually
I swear.
happened, I will die. But anyway,
That would be amazing if it actually
yeah.
does happen.
But on the topic of Poland for now, since they got picked, they have a very, very all-rounded roster. I think that's the least that we can say for them. Tida, Kudanam, Underjoy mentioned earlier. Actually, Arkatev as well. Crawley. Yeah, okay. 5 very evenly, like, very respectable players. Good with, really pretty decent with accuracy and pretty decent all around. And I think that's just what makes them so strong.
Yeah, it really does. And they're especially shining in the SV department, which is something that they're going to be able to take extreme advantage of, especially if they're the top seed they get matched with isn't that strong on that front. So definitely a pretty scary team when it comes down to that kind of stuff.
Yep, that's Sweden for Group D. I guess I'll let you take this one.
Yeah, when it comes to high seeds, I'd say out of all of them, Sweden is arguably one of the scariest to see, especially early on. I mean, last year they took 2 points off of South Korea. Granted, it was barring a couple of drops on the South Korean side, but either way, they show an extreme amount of consistency.
Well, let's put it this way: South Korea's basically got those same drops this year. No Jakods, no Blue Bloody.
Yeah.
So I mean, that'll be interesting. I mean, I don't know if Sweden, if they get South Korea, if they maybe will pull it off, but we'll see here. And Swede's actually scary enough to make me choke 3 times in round of 16 when I played against them. So that's always worth noting.
It's true. The roster is looking like captain of Vent, who was Vento last year, Quill, Cetox, Stug, Yoshizori, and Preti. A very similar team to last year. Unfortunately, they do seem to be using Sawari. Yeah, arguably one of their best late game speed players, or Rice in general players. But that is not going to matter too much early on, and they definitely are still a force to be reckoned with until they get to a point where they can't handle the Mappools, which I'd say that a few of their players still would be able to keep themselves going when it comes to semis and finals.
They'll definitely be fine through groups in round of 16, though. But Group E being Australia, actually a pretty decent lineup for them, it looks like. So if I were an Australian, I'd be pretty happy right now. Team's got Lusty Platypus, Spartan, Rek, Potassium F, Angel Itchy Stick, and Yuki Kaze from the China Crazy Clan, which is a nice import to always have. So actually a very solid SV team from what I'm recognizing. But also, I would assume they'd be all right with accuracy. Australia generally a team that not really a lot of people keep their eyes on for NWCs, but I mean this tournament could completely change that.
Yeah, especially with them being upgraded to high seed, when last year I believe they were no seed, weren't they? Or were they?
I think might have been low.
No, that was New Zealand. The team was no seed.
Okay, New Zealand last year. Oh, it's so unfortunate they didn't play this year, but still, I mean, that'd be crazy. We saw another no seed go to round of 16. But anyways, yeah, moving on to Group F here.
We got China coming in for Group F.
Probably a pretty decently safe team for China. I know China in particular is very they struggle with accuracy. That's the least to say. But considering their skill sets, especially their late game skill sets, I think they should be fine with the group they're given.
Yeah, I think they'll be okay in terms of groups, at least in terms of surviving. And then if they're able to get past round of 16 and quarterfinals, they'll really start to shine in those later pools because their players are particularly good when it comes to speed and tech and LN when it comes to the really, really hard stuff.
Yeah, it's just that really hard stuff we might not be seeing till semis and even finals, so really just hopefully China can just pull through here in the first half of the tournament. But if they do, they'll definitely be a force to be reckoned with. That's Singapore being chosen for Group G. Very, very solid roster, actually. I would say that maybe they're missing a player here or there that could definitely make them a lot stronger, but even then, you know, they still have a very nice roster. Good for ACT, definitely. Trying to think of what else there is. I mean, they have Bye For Now, Tamaneko, who recently changed names. He used to go by Paralit, Polytetral, Linius, or Orion State, and Luigi Farn. But I mean, they've got very, very, very solid accuracy. And I think their other skill sets aren't falling too far behind. It's just definitely watch out for their accuracy. That's the one thing you gotta know when you're playing against them.
And going into Group H will, of course, be the last country remaining. France going to be facing Macau and Spain with a roster of Azubur, who was known as Bumpin' Ho, Elementaires, Antoa, Todestrebe, Kunu, and Demon Waves. Another team that has a really solid late game in terms of players like Bumpin' Ho and Kunu, who has recently shown insane strides in the speed department. But they also match it up with some pretty solid early game, with Bumpin' Ho also being very solid at accuracy, as well as having Elementaires and Demon Waves and Todestrebe to back him up in the accuracy department. So definitely a pretty scary team to see early on, but also not something you want to really underestimate when it comes to pretty much any pool in this tournament.
Oh yeah, and now we've got the top seed. This is getting me nervous because I'm kind of worried about some groups that I might get.
Yeah, there's participating in this tournament makes commentating this part very nerve-wracking.
Yeah, definitely. But for our top seeded teams, we got the US. That's us. Brazil, South Korea, Japan, UK, Canada, Indonesia, Group C, and Chile, which, I mean, all around, this is very, very, very scary. I would be surprised if any of these teams, maybe barring one or two, would make it out below the top of their group. So really something to look out for here. But going in for Group A, if we get a team that's not so adept with LNs, they might be in for a little bit of a, I don't want to say nightmare here, but definitely something to be scared just a tiny bit about.
Yeah, teams to look out for that might not be the strongest LN. Possibly Chile, maybe Canada as well, though they do have LN players in the back as well. So Chile for sure would be in a bit of a pickle in that situation.
Can I ask
I would
for
say
Japan?
potentially
Very
even the UK.
solid.
Can I ask for Japan on this group, please?
I mean, Japan, I think.
Oh no!
Rough, but
Okay, that's the USA.
That's the one group I didn't
Well,
want. All right,
you were talking about scheduling nightmares. Well, I present you Group A.
Okay.
Alright, well,
Can't wait
we
to
got
play at 6 in the morning.
yeah, USA with Malaysia, Thailand, and Peru. Team The Toaster as a captain with Stupid Man, Neuro, Electro, Etienne XC, and Trouble. Arguably one of the best rosters they've had in the past 3 years.
Yeah, I heard that Stupid Man guy is really, really good at the game. And, like, he's probably he's really cool. Yeah, he's a really cool guy.
Yeah, he really is. But they are arguably also one of the most well-rounded teams in the entire tournament at this point, being capable of pretty much some of the best play in the early stages as well as at the end, though they will have some challenges that they will face in the name of, namely like speed and speed accuracy, which they're notably weaker on than most years. But
Yeah,
they've shown a lot of improvement in other ways. I'm trying not to be biased right now, man.
Yeah, of course. That's fair.
You can say that you're gonna win the tournament. That's fine.
Group B here, though. We'll
Oh,
see.
Oh, my
Japan.
scheduling. Why the
Okay.
scheduling suddenly so bad?
Actually, I think
You already had
Argentina and Italy might be the most adept LN players in that group. That'd be interesting. I don't think Japan's leaving that group without a couple scratches. That's for sure.
I think
I
you
think
might
Japan
be
just-
wrong.
Japan's accuracy is very, very strong. I think their LN accuracy is a little bit weaker than most of their other skills. It's just dependent on whether they're able to hold up that LN accuracy against the teams like Italy and Argentina.
Yeah, I'm just like incredibly sorry for whoever has to play accuracy against Japan, because you will be horrifically disappointed. And
Well,
I think
that's
that's an
kinda-
understatement.
That's kind of Italy's main strength, I think. So, yeah,
Yeah.
that might be a problem.
I think the game to
Team
look out for in that
members-
group then is going to be Argentina and Italy.
Yeah, but Japan consists of Intelizer, Tinpura, Piratam, Misa, Mach JP, and AM Dusky in 1996, also known as a father. The two players you're going to want to look out for, especially early on, are going to be Intel and AM Duskia, who are accuracy machines. Even when we get to later stages, you're going to be seeing those two players a lot. Just when it comes to LNs, it's likely that AM Duskia will be swapped out for someone like Piratam or Mach JP, who have both shown lots of improvements in the LN department, as well
Yeah,
as
I mean,
Mach being really good at speed too.
Yeah, and I mean they all played last year too, with the exception of AMD. So really, just the fact that they could have improved more so than what they were at last year is gonna be really nice to see.
And
Okay, so
onward.
this is the group one. We get Indonesia, right?
Yep, it's guaranteed. It's scripted, dude. There's no way it's not going to be Indo.
No, oh no.
Okay.
Well, I mean,
not
Poland, you
Indo.
don't get Indonesia this time, but you get South Korea.
Okay, hold on. We don't get South Korea in our bracket then, right? If we get out of
No, you
get out
don't.
of group stage here. All right.
If they get first, if they get first, and you get first, that is.
Oh yeah. Okay. That's fair.
It's the ultimatum.
Anyways, South Korea, Sudden Death Estonians, or no, Estonians. That's his new name. I don't know why. Whatever. Wonder 5193 Special Nausicaa and Snow Sense. Very strong LN roster actually, which might be a bit surprising to. Well, that shouldn't be surprising at all. It's South Korea, but still probably the strongest LN roster in the game or in the tournament, I would argue. And
Yeah.
considering that team, I mean, Philippines LN team, Poland decent at LNs, and Finland even having a very solid LN player. So it's weird how all of these, I guess, skill sets kind of just find their way into. Like they all just sort of form their own groups. Like you don't have a mix of one team's good at LNs, one team's good at Rise, one team's good at whatever. It's usually all teams good at Rise, all teams good at LNs. Kind of, it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna make a couple interesting games.
And we get the United Kingdom here and make a full European group.
Oh man,
Make it an easy scheduling day.
Please.
got a one-off
Yes.
chance.
Oh
Hey,
wow.
Wow, the predictions.
Well, that's very nice. This
UK
might
is pretty interesting. They're a team consisting of Amosite, Pikachu Nick, it's Jakey, X Snaggles, Civilization, and Domblade. An extremely good late game team. Some of the best Rice capabilities of any team when it comes to finals finals charts. Their LN and SVs later on is a little bit weaker, or a little bit noticeably weaker. Their early game though is a little bit interesting. They have really good accuracy and long no players, and they have SV players that can do it, but really depend on whether they're going to be able to hold their composure. Because from what I've seen, the United Kingdom players tend to have small problems holding their composures. And with the addition of 3 players who never played in a World Cup, that's going to be interesting to see how they're able to hold on to their own nerves.
Oh yeah. But Group E here. I think at this point.
Can we get Indonesia? Yes, we can. Oh boy.
Yeah, okay. All right. You're rigging this. I think you're rigging this. I don't know, man. Anyways, Indonesia, not in Group C, unfortunately, but Group E. Very solid roster, actually. Lovely Serenade, Rev Fangirl, definitely 2 players just note right off the bat there. But also having Raze, Nixeria Sama, Lombit, and Lord Boker, and Indonesia and Australia. They got oh my god. Wait. I'm so sorry. Okay, so Lusty's gonna die when he plays against Lombit. It's gonna be really funny. So just look out for that. That'll be great.
I think it's the 3rd time out of test runs, right? We have been doing test runs to like get the light drawings working and whatnot. I think the 3 times we did it, the 3 times it was Australia versus Indonesia.
It's rigged, dude.
Definitely rigged. Oh my god. Alright. That completely took me out of the moment. I just realized that. Oh my god. Alright. But man, Indonesia, very strong accuracy. Very strong. Actually, they're just all rounded. I mean, that's their strength. It's just, I believe their 3rd player is going to be mostly on rotation, but they've got Lovely Serenade and Rem Fangirl, and that alone is really, really good for that team, especially during groups like this.
So we only have a.
Late game. I think especially once it hits late game, Rem and Lovely Serenade are going to be in there all the time. Pretty much every map.
Yeah, I think that's easily expectable.
Now with only teams remaining from the Americas, we'll see who gets in here. If I can ask, I will say Chile. Okay.
It's rigged.
Stop.
This is
Stop.
rigged.
Jesus. All right, Chile. Actually, I've been going off about accuracy a lot, but I would say Chile is up there for maybe top 2 or top 3 on accuracy. Walter Toro, Skolin, Softy, which I believe is Urusai, who's also Rizzi, who is also old cartoon. 7X, Arcaner, and Ryzen. So already I see Skolin and Urusai, Softy, I guess, as accuracy players for sure. So really something to look out for there. And they definitely practice their SVs, and they've got that down stat. So really just look out for that. I think they'll be fine in that group.
I imagine their accuracy is just going to carry them through on the group stage, especially against China. But now, last group, I mean, I have to predict again, I guess. I really don't want any of these teams to be in this group, but I guess I kind of have to go for it. Canada? No? Okay. Oof.
Okay, fine. That works.
We got Brazil joining in with Hong Kong, Russia, and Singapore in Group G. Their team consisting of Captain Lothis with Silly Fangirl, Felipe Link, Andre MC, Shedden, and Lazarento. Similar to the past 3 years, they are an extremely solid team, especially with some accuracy players as Lothis and Andre MC being able to carry them through the early rounds, and then letting people like Silly Fangirl and also Lothis again shine once they hit the later Mappools, which they're going to be a strong team as they usually are.
So yeah, rounding it out, Group H, Canada. Actually, I don't know, did they get top seed last year?
They did not. They had high seed last year.
Okay, yeah. So
they
this
did win their group though.
Yeah, they have arguably a better, yeah, I would say a better roster than last year. It's just that they're missing Pancho this year, which might be a bit of a detriment. But
yeah, they certainly have a better late game roster than they did last year.
Yep.
The early game is certainly no slouch this year either, with Dot being extremely solid on accuracy. as well as Piggy and Commando Black being there to help back them up.
So
Wow.
yeah, really solid speed team overall, and LN's maybe not too far behind. And if they practice SVs, they should be all right.
I am sad because most of these groups are like painful to schedule. Like there's not a single one except from the European group that is not too bad to do. Like Group A, Peru from America, Thailand, Malaysia from Asia, USA from America. So there's like 12 hours of difference between most of those teams. Then Group B, same thing, but with one European, and it just gets worse over time. Like last group is also bad. Brazil's group is bad. I'm gonna cry.
Yep, but that's it for the drawings. We got Group A with Peru, Thailand, Malaysia, and the United States. Group B with Taiwan, Argentina, Italy, and Japan. Group C with Finland, the Philippines, Poland, and South Korea. Group D having the Netherlands, Germany, Sweden, and the United Kingdom. Group E with Norway, Switzerland, Australia, and Indonesia. Group F with Venezuela, Denmark, China, and Chile. Group G with Hong Kong, Russia, Singapore, and Brazil. And then last but not least, Group H with Macau, Spain, France, and Canada. But without further ado, we should be getting, because after this, getting into the group stage Mappool showcase, if I am not mistaken.
You will be correct, yeah. We should be jumping right into it in about a minute or two while we prep all the things required for it. So yeah, stay tuned. We're gonna go into the standby screen round for the second. You can keep talking, don't worry.
Alright. Yeah, actually, like I mentioned earlier, it's like a lot of these teams, at least given the groups that they have, they can't exactly target weaknesses of other teams. So that might make it pretty lucky for some of the high-seeded teams in particular. I think the only thing to worry about, I believe, which group was it? I believe UK. It was UK and Germany, I think. They might have to look out. I'm not 100% sure, but I just know UK in particular isn't exactly the best on accuracy, I want to say. But you know that could be completely wrong. I know they have Domblade, I know they have Pipper. It's just I think Sleepy Darkrai is missing this year, so that could change things. But we'll definitely see.
Alright guys, so are we ready?
I believe so. I think I'm all ready.
Alright then. So, if you're all ready, we will go into the Mappool showcase.
I'm already nervous. Oh man. All right. Well, our first pick being our LN consistency pick, actually. There is a reason by Suzuki Konomi, with a difficulty name I don't want to say, unless it actually says something. But anyways, OD 8.2, HP 7.8. Averaging at around 134 BPM, but this is 4 minutes and 50 seconds long at 3.07 stars, so definitely going to be something that you're going to need to be a bit more patient on. I think that's a pretty good description of a lot of consistency charts around group stage.
I mean, it's also, when it comes to consistency, it's about maintaining composure for a significant portion of time. Because last year we had stuff like imaginary walls, which aren't difficult in pretty much any way, at least physically. But if you're not like keeping your composure for the full time, you'll find yourself dropping LN releases or holding for too long. or just losing focus in the middle of the chart.
Yeah, I mean, especially given that it's LN and that it's consistency, like it's gonna be a slower chart, and it's a lot easier to lose focus in a slower chart. That's for sure.
It is indeed. I mean, I guess it's fine if I talk as the map selector. So this chart is definitely, I want to say, nerve testing, although it's pretty slow. But the concentration you require to keep going throughout all of it is probably what makes it hard. There are eventually some different rhythms that the usual 1-2, 1 forwards. Like eventually you have 1/3 or like galops that are kind of tricky to act. But in general, it's just your standard consistency LN chart, maybe more into LNs that we saw last year with Imaginary Waltz. And I say maybe, but it's definitely more into LNs. The density just gets going harder and harder. It picks up as the song progresses, and on the end, it can get pretty hard to people who are not pretty confident on their LN abilities.
Yeah, I mean, it also doesn't help that this is OD 8.2, which makes the LN releases slightly harder than they would have been before. So any of the tricky releases that we find in this chart will be made a bit harder than you would imagine just off of that. So it's really easy to just lose accuracy at any point.
And we're not even we're just barely halfway to the chart. Pretty good. And I mean, still, it's just straight LNs the whole way through, and maybe a couple of racings here and there. But that does make it like, I mean, I'm sure I would probably lose focus on something like this. But the fact that it's like not too dense, it's gonna mean that ratio is gonna be key here, and especially on LNs, that might be a bit hard to keep up.
With, as we've said, the tricky releases being all throughout the chart, the possibility of misses is just exemplified when the chart is as long as this one is. 4 minutes and 48 seconds is a really long time to hold on to that kind of consistency. And I'd argue that consistency can even be harder to maintain when it's something that is below your peak in terms of skill. So I'd say that some of the higher end teams might even have problems holding the consistency on this, or at least we'll have more problems than you'd expect.
Yeah, this is probably gonna be a ban sponge because it's just too long and it's hard to get used to it. It requires a bit of training, and when there are long maps and training, they usually don't get along each other. But you can see that this on the ending, the density starts to pick up a little bit and the rhythms are more complex to follow. And the very ending, which is about to take place, is more into LNs. You see those release patterns.
Okay. That one release pattern looks a bit fishy. But yeah, that I'd say that is pretty much true when it comes to this kind of chart. It'll be similar to Imaginary Waltz, where people who don't want to deal with the long chart, they're just going to think.
But coming into the end of the chart here, if you manage to make it this far, then you should be solid. You should be set for playing this anyway.
So for the second map here then, want to introduce it? One of you guys?
Sure can. It's going to be Toby Fox Asgore, edit difficulty by I don't know, Whitey?
Yeah, there you go. Alright.
OD 8.5, HP 8.5, BPM of 230, and a length of 2 minutes and 54 seconds. Star rating of 4.51, which is pretty high for group stage as far as we've seen in the past couple of years. But this is going to be pretty much the core jack chart of the pool, or as much of a core jack chart as you can have in group stage. So
yeah,
whoa.
Let's also put it this way. This chart is easily harder than the Lost Dedicated, which was in quarterfinals last year. So, to be fair, that chart should not have been in quarterfinals, but still. This is a bit of a challenge for people who can't exactly like be the best at chord jacks, but if you're at least like halfway decent, you should be able to get really good accuracy on this.
There's also some amount of long jacking skill required in it, even if it's only 115 BPM. Those 5-note hand jacks that are in this can be pretty stamina draining, since you have to keep it up with both your hands for the entire duration. And like even now, we're getting into more of these hand jacks, just alternating hands. So stamina is definitely going to be partially an issue for the teams that aren't going to be able to keep up with these kinds of jacks.
Yeah, it's definitely a thing, especially for lower teams, like lower seeded teams. There's also people in chat asking what's the meaning of OD and type. And for that, the OD, also known as the overall difficulty, is how hard it is to get better judgments. Like you see there's 300s that are yellow and 300s that are rainbow. The hit window for those particular judgments varies depending on the OD value, on the overall difficulty. And for the type, it's just a way to categorize the different maps on the pool. For example, a map that is mostly focusing on normal notes like this one, it's the type of rice. And those who are more into long notes, they have the LN typing. And we will see right after this one, SV types, which are the ones that change their scroll speed all the time.
Yeah, so basically the higher the OD is, the harder it is to get good timing on the chart. But that being said, even at 8.5, considering it's sort of a jack chart, it's a bit lenient, I want to argue. But considering it's group stage, it should be all right.
Yeah, I mean, it's generally known that jacks are arguably one of the easiest patterns to accuracy, if not the easiest type of pattern to get good accuracy on. So having that slightly higher OD really won't be too much of a detriment to a lot of the teams.
Yep, but our next pick here, I think both me and Toph are all too familiar with.
Yeah, we're stealing from Rhythm. Come on.
Yeah, stealing from Rhythm Rivals. Yeah, that's what I like to hear. Anyways, we use this pick for round of 32.
Yeah, round
yeah. All right. So, anyways, this is gonna be the SB pick for the pool. Chart Zeo style, 1 minute and 30 seconds. Ripped directly from the Sound Dodger OST, and OD7 actually gonna make this pretty easy to time. So if you're familiar with this game at all or familiar with the song, I think people should be alright with it. And the SBs aren't too hard to learn either. Although they do get a bit crazy. Yeah, like right there, those pauses, that's what's gonna throw people off a lot.
This is the kind of thing I'd like to call classic Zeo style SBs, where it's a lot of like really aggressive jumps that don't really change the spacings of the note particularly, except for when those 0 BPM sections come in. But it's pretty intuitive as long as you're able to react properly to it.
That spooky slider over there is definitely one of the parts we might see chokes from many players who haven't practiced the map as much.
And out of the two SV charts, this one I'd arguably say is the one that's going to get banned less, just because I know what the other one is, and
yeah, I know it too. I know what you mean. You're gonna see it.
It's weird. I'm not ready to practice that, even though I've already played it a bunch. But moving on to pick number 4 is going to be another LN type chart. It's going to be Tom Encore Jig, a chart by Kamikaze, one of our map selectors. Manufactured difficulty with an OD of 8, an HP of 9, and a BPM of 138. Length is pretty short at only 1 minute and 37 seconds, with a starting of 3.33 stars. And what we'll pretty much notice throughout this chart is pretty unusual rhythms with some odd releases that are going to throw some people off accuracy-wise. And yeah, okay, that's not what I expected it to be, but okay. This gives me a pretty big flashback to like Silver Temple back from the soft
Oh.
too.
We wanted to use Silver Temple, but we didn't, by the way.
That'd be pretty.
Don't make me play that again.
Anyways, I mean, this is a huge step up from last year. Like, Jesus.
This is something we might have seen like low end of round of 16. Actually, this is relatively similar to the introductions and variations from last year's round of 16.
Just slightly less, I guess, released if you want to put it that way. But oh, that's more like connection.
Classic kamikaze LN decks. Just what I like to see.
That's gonna be pretty hard to time for a lot of people, I think, especially on the ODA for LN.
Yeah, we're certainly seeing oh, that was a polyrhythm. Don't make me do that.
Yeah, the chart is filled with
Polyrhythm.
polys and long
Polyrhythm LNs are hard.
I can tell you though, the map feels really good. It flows very well, so it's not as complicated as it looks initially. You have to play it. But now on map number 5, we have the jump stream pick.
A map by Alternator, which is actually pretty nice to see. Anyways, jump stream map, OD8, HP8, 4.68 stars, which is pretty dense. 212 BPM as well, which I think is relatively fast. It's no consistency pick. Let's just get that out of the way. I mean, I think this is more jump stream speed. It happens to be long, so I think that would go more towards maybe even stamina for the lower ended players. But definitely just be on the lookout for this. It's fairly fast for group stage.
Whoa. Okay, yeah. This is looking really tricky already as is. Wow.
The thing is, the patterns here look a bit creepy and a bit complicated, but there are many breaks, especially 1-2 breaks like this one, which of course the trails can be a bit tricky to get good accuracy of. But once you get used to it, if you can control the speed, it's not that bad to play. And there are breaks with lower density as well. It mostly comes down to how well you can keep up and maintain your stamina throughout the chart until the ending, where the jump streams gets a lot denser and you see even jump trail patterns in between them. So for now, this is just the normal thing that we're gonna see. Like here, you have breaks where you can regain your composure, get back into it, but you can see I'm not particularly fast at the game. I'm not a very fast player, but you can see my accuracy there. It's pretty high. Like the rhythms and the patterns are really not that hard to play.
Yeah, what I'm noticing in particular is that those transition sections with the dense broken jump stream look particularly difficult in terms of at least timing everything. It's not really like straight jump stream, which a lot of people would be comfortable with. You have to sort of stop yourself every 5 notes or so, and that can be pretty tough to hold accuracy on.
There are a couple patterns here that are, I guess, like sort of the trills there. I think like, I guess one thing I can notice from this is that there's a lot of variation in patterning, despite it being straight jump stream. So definitely something to look out for. If someone's like struggling in a certain pattern, they might not hit certain parts of this chart correctly, and that actually could lead them to drop a couple 200s here and there, maybe even combo break.
Yeah, this is like comparable to the LN consistency chart in a way that you kind of have to focus a little bit because it's long, but it's definitely way denser and definitely way faster. It's more into actual stamina and not just concentration. But here we go. This is the dense jump stream section.
Oh, yeah. These are interesting patterns because they're pretty rolly right out of the gate, and rolls can be pretty hard to get good accuracy on, particularly when they get faster, and then they're matched up with trills, which are arguably some of the more stamina draining patterns. But luckily they're two-handed trills in pretty much every scenario as far as I can tell, which at least saves people's stamina if they're not too good at one-handed trills.
Yeah, I think the upside here is that there's no like full hand stream, and especially at 212 BPM, that'd be pretty crazy. So definitely decent chart all around with a bit of a spiky ending, but still should be manageable for a lot of the higher seeded teams here.
That's it for the jump stream pick. We're gonna jump straight into the number 6 pick here, which is the long node map that everyone hates. The long node stream oriented map.
As is normal with Kamikaze map selection, we got some Alephi coming in hot.
Hey, I picked this one, so you can blame me for it. You can see the land and patterns are already a bit more intrusive this time. It's not like the long node consistency. This has way more long nodes. It's way denser, and it generally has 1-4 long node streams pretty much throughout the whole thing. Especially during the second, third, and last third of the map, we will see patterns like this one with longer long nodes in between the mini LNs, the 1/4 ones, and more release-oriented patterns like this ones.
I mean, you're also seeing like little sections of inverts thrown throughout.
Yeah, like I want to call them pseudo inverts because it's not really an inverse section, it's just an inverse pattern. Or like one column inverse maybe.
Yeah, I mean, these patterns remind me a little bit of Rock Hill, just they're extended for way longer than Rock Hill's were. Often you got some mini janks thrown in throughout, which when you're dealing with long nodes, mini janks can really mess up your release game.
Yeah, I gotta say, like, I was mentioning the step up from group stage last year a bit earlier on, but man, this chart is not kidding around.
Yeah, so this is probably the harder long node map in the pool though.
Yeah, these releases.
Alephi releases. You can see the density picks up quite a lot on the ending, pretty much just long node jump streams and eventual longer nodes that might trip some players with releases, or maybe just reading the map properly. But overall, again, I don't expect this map to be picked all that often, just because it's the harder long node map. I can see this one being banned quite often, but it could be a good weapon for those teams that are good at a lens, but maybe not as good at accuracy, and they can edge out the difference by comboing through this map.
Yep, but moving on to our next pick here. Our speed pick for this map pool, and single stream speed too, actually, gonna be Shoegazer Chart. Scarlet Tempest by Fibonacci Crisis, OD8 HPA, 165 BPM, but considering the speed of these streams, it's gonna feel a lot faster than that. 3.73 stars as well, but of course, considering it's a single stream speed, it's gonna be a bit underrated.
With these streams that are coming up being pretty much 1/6 patterns, they are going to feel a lot faster than you'd expect. Luckily, there aren't really any jumps thrown in them, but these patterns are also pretty difficult for the kinds of streams they are.
Yeah, it's not as fast as Altail from last year, but the patterns are definitely a bit harder in comparison.
The thing about this chart too is that it really tends to just keep up that same sort of patterning. It doesn't get exactly like too dense. Maybe the streams last for a tiny bit longer in certain areas, but if you're able to play this kind of density, you just got to keep it up and kind of be consistent with it.
Have a little bit of a break here to regain composure. Really, I don't think this is going to be that stamina draining for most of the teams. It's mostly just about controlling your speed. So you can use that break to get back in timing and try to go again because their last section is a little bit harder in terms of patterning, though the speed required is the same, the control is a bit more difficult to handle.
The ending here is going to get a bit longer than normal, and make it through this far, you've pretty much got your score. I think it will probably be decided for this song right here.
Well, you can always choke on the long notes to do the strain, but it's most likely going to be already decided at this point, yeah. But that's it for Scarlet Tempest. You're gonna see map number 8 now on screen. It's the hybrid pick of the pool, and it's Suikyo Heaven. An edited difficulty by Kamikaze. This map is made by Just How. And this has a little bit of everything. It has SVs, it has long notes, it has tricky rise patterns, really tricky releases. It's just arguably the hardest map on the pool, or the all-rounder pick. And a lot of teams will try to avoid this one unless they have like 3 all-rounded players that can play just fine.
Yeah, there's certain interesting patterns we're seeing. A lot of just single LNs with patterns going around them throughout this chart so far, and between them we've seen a lot of just jump stream bursts, but I imagine we'll be seeing a bit, okay, nice one-handed drill. And this is a slow jam, I think?
Yep, it's a slow jam.
Considering the difference in scroll speed, it's not too bad. All of that one jump there might throw people off. This is definitely something you have to practice if you want to get a good score on it for sure, though. You can't just like, oh yeah, that part? Okay. Yeah, you're not getting a sight read on this. You're not getting away with that.
You can mind block that really hard, so I suggest you not to play the map a lot of times.
Luckily, when it comes to LNs, okay, never mind. I was about to say something and then this part told me that I was wrong. I was going to say that the LNs really aren't too abrasive LN-wise, and I don't think that's true anymore.
But yeah, this is the hardest map of the pool, so it makes sense that you look a bit scared. But don't worry. I think this is the pick for higher end players, like top seeded teams against the lower seeded. But it's still risky. If the low seed can somehow perform well, it can be a battle of comboing.
Yeah.
But that being said, we go straight into the pick number 9.
This one's interesting. I thought this was I predicted this for round of 16. And if that says anything about how hard this pool already is, yeah, it's that missing week by the Flash Build, another Shoegazer chart. This is it's a pretty techy choice. It has some LNs thrown out, but a lot of what people will probably struggle with are the mini jacks that are intertwined with these LNs and fast burst patterns. They can trip you up really easily, and it's not hard to just choke away a miss since the mini jacks are so fast.
This is so technical given this stage too. I mean, man. It's gonna be a bit rough for people to really time this well too, so definitely just look out for that. I think teams that aren't gonna be so good on timing, especially parts like that, I mean, even some of the rolls here might be a bit tough. But yeah, I mean, you gotta be pretty much on your A game in terms of timing if you want to get a good score on this.
This is, I will argue, the hardest rise-oriented map of the pool. It has really tricky technical patterns. They are very easy to choke. That's the main thing with this map. I don't think it's particularly hard to go through it and have a good play, but it's very hard to be consistent on it.
Yeah, pretty much. And I mean that's kind of the thing with both tech charts is that it's not a very consistent skill set in general. And I see Night Bunny saying this might be the hardest group stage ever, and I think I'm inclined to agree.
I would give no doubts to that statement.
I don't doubt that either. I mean, we wanted to go a bit harder on this pool because we feel the teams have improved so much already that we can do a harder group stage. But that being said, we go into map number 10. This is my map. Even though I didn't want to put this on the poll, Kamikaze ended up convincing me, I guess. This is the sort of long no releases oriented coordination question mark. I mean, it's a map that I made, and usually that means the map is going to be hard to coordinate and it will require good finger independency, good long no skill overall. This is no exception. It's relatively tame for what I usually map, but it can get tricky to some people. It's also relatively long, so it can drain your concentration a little bit too.
Yeah, I'd say that this is some mix between LN coordination and LN consistency, especially given the length of the chart, as well as the fact that you made it to the 8.5. Please stop using IODs for LN blocks.
Huh?
Please stop using IODs on LN charts. I've never forgiven you for E9.
Hey, I mean, I'm doing it again for finals, so be careful.
Well, that's something to look forward to, I suppose. But anyways, like Juan said, this is more of the LN release oriented chart, and I mean, especially given that it's OD 8.5, like you really have to time those releases. I wouldn't say near perfect, but you have to time them well. On Scorpio 2, it is a bit easier to time LNs as well, or the releases, I should say. But yeah, I mean, that's really going to play a huge factor in how teams perform here.
I think, like, with that coordination thing we were talking about earlier, too, this chart, as it is with most long charts, is really easy to just let go of LN, because they're longer than you expect them to be half the time. So, it's something definitely to look out for that. I think a lot of teams are just going to end up with so many more LN release breaks than they will straight misses.
Yeah, it's definitely understandable. Like, I think that's usually the case with a lot of release charts in general. So the timing kind of just happens to be that way. You don't see a lot of misses, a lot of 50s though, and that's usually a signal that they're just releasing on break, or they're breaking on releases.
I also might expect to see people full comboing it just fine, but getting a lot of errors.
Not even done with the chart yet. I mean, there's still a fairly tough amount of LMs left.
Yeah, there's a cars left, so. The thing with this map is that it just never really lets go, except for one section before the last course, so it, again, a concentration test to some people.
Well, good news is after this, there's no more LN charts. I think we can throw that out of the way. Unless you want to consider the tiebreaker in LN chart, but it's supposed to be more well-rounded, so that's understandable.
I mean, the last map has one tricky pattern with the lens, but the rest is just SVs. And we're gonna see it right now. And I hate you, Cami, for picking this. I hate this map.
Memes. Polish memes.
I hate this map. I hate you, Kamikaze, for picking this. And I'll not forgive you. Because I had to play this. So yeah, this is a... Yeah, interesting song choice. This is the SV sort of reading-ish map, and you don't want to play this. Just ban this, please. I don't want to hear it either.
Here we go. Slow jam. Yeah, basically, the biggest thing with this is the slow jam transitioning back into the normal speed with these. I don't know what to call those, but they're kind of like rolls.
Split rolls?
Yeah, that would make sense.
So yeah, chat can now have, instead of sports, they can just spam Papa to Wawa. But that transition there with the long nose can be pretty hard if you have not played the chart a couple times, like my case, where I got a 100 there. And there are some speed ups that may not be noticeable on stream, but they're definitely there and can catch up people off guard and perhaps get 200s. And you can see you go snapping there, it can help you out to time those SBs.
I'm still having a bit of trouble comprehending this entire chart.
Same.
I mean, I am concerned with the SV difficulty of it, but I guess more so the audio quality, which is not really a big deal, but you know. Anyways.
Got a tiebreaker now, the last song of the pool.
That rounds it out
sorry.
for the regular fix anyways, but yeah. Let's take the Revolution, which might be familiar to a couple of tournament goers in this community, by Piratom. I guess I'll let one of the other guys take this away, since I'm sure you're more familiar with it than me.
Well, this was used on round of 32 soft 2 tiebreaker, I think. That's where I remained it from.
Yes, it was.
And it has a little bit of everything really. The SBs are pretty tricky, the long nose can get a bit difficult, although I don't think they are that intrusive as the actual long nose picks of the pool. They're just there and can catch you off guard eventually. The rise patterns aren't all that complicated, besides like 2 or 3 parts throughout the map where are very fast transitions and eventual mini-jacks, if I recall correctly. So it can get challenging in every single aspect, but it is not extremely complicated in any of them, besides maybe SBs, which the pool lacks a little bit of, so it's probably fine to have a harder SB-ish tiebreaker.
Yeah, I mean, fairly dense chorus too. It's a lot of rice-oriented things, but yeah, I mean, this being a tiebreaker, you're just gonna have to get it pretty much everything to play it. And always, I think this comes without saying, just don't forget to practice it.
But like you can see, the tiebreaker itself isn't all that hard though. It's mostly just an all-rounder test. Now you have to be capable to hold on through anything that is thrown at you, but it's not in a particularly extremely hard way. So usually the team that wins this tiebreaker is the team that has the most all-rounder skills, also have practiced the tiebreaker the most.
Yeah, I think mostly with tiebreakers, it just comes down to practice. Like, that's kind of the deciding factor. If you look at, like, Hong Kong versus Canada last year, right, on the Baby Metal chart, Tales of Destinies, I think. Like, you saw, like, Commando Black actually practicing the Mappool and practicing that tiebreaker, and that's really what won them that chart. So really, everything comes down to the line when it comes down to the tiebreaker. I mean, it really would mean a lot to your team if you did practice tiebreaker, and especially those SBs, like, sort of just before the middle part here. That's what's going to make that difference.
For us who don't recognize this as a tiebreaker, you can see there's a little mark there on green on the map card on the bottom of the hit position, the judgment bar. But you can see the type is hybrid, which makes sense. It's a tiebreaker. OD 8.0. This is so Piratom. Like, you see this map and it's if you listen to the song, really, you don't even have to see the chart. You can already know that it's Piratom. As you can see here, a little bit of inverse and fast transitions here, which can catch the lower teams. Maybe get a break or two over there. core jack over there. And after that, the map just gets a little bit more simple, like it used to be before. Maybe a bit denser with jumps and hands in the middle. But the chart again, overall, tests this sort of consistency and capabilities to do pretty much everything. Long nose patterns, rise patterns, eventual SVs, and stamina because it's a pretty long map in both concentration and physicality. But with the map almost concluding now, we will be seeing an end to this stream. I don't know if my other two commentators are still around.
I mean, yeah. I'm just trying to still like look at anything like important out of the chart. Really, it's just that I like this was used in soft. I forgot if it was
Soft 2, round of 32.
Right. Yeah, because I remember I like looked at it. I'm like, I don't want to play this, but I guess now I really have to. But yeah. Anyways, like it's just. I mean, I think this is a really good tiebreaker. Like it's got most of the skill sets that you need, and it does it pretty well. Granted, it's maybe not up to difficulty standards compared to the rest of the pool, but just taking a look at everything right now, I think if anything really stands out, probably that last SV pick, clearly. And then maybe Suikyo Heaven, which is sort of, if anything, it's like a mini tiebreaker in of itself.
Yeah, that's probably an accurate description. I want to say though, like you see the pool here. Oh no, music. You see the pool here, and you're like, okay, there's like half of the maps which are very hard, and half of the maps that are just hard, right? Or at least that's how I see it. I don't know about you guys. But you see the Missing Week, Suikyo Heaven, Takaja, maybe even Ascort to some people. But then you have maps like There Is a Reason, Genesis, Jig, I Do What I Want. There's like always a choice for the lower end teams to go for, although the pool is definitely harder than what we have seen in previous years and what we're used to see in general. As you can see, FM is the tag for most of these maps because they are free mod, which means the players can use both either hidden, fading, or flashlight. They cannot use any other mode, and it will not affect their score multiplier. It's just a visual preference that players might opt to go for or not, depending on their preferences.
Yep. So, and I mean, there are a couple of players like that. I mean, we've got Command of Black, Flashlight, we've got Last Succeed, Fading. So I mean, there's a lot to look at for sure, especially in group stage with all these games going on. But I think that's gonna about wrap it up, unless you guys have anything else to add.
Yeah, this is gonna be a pretty interesting group stage to see, with a pretty noticeable jump in difficulty compared to previous group stages. Not sure exactly what I expect out of, you know, the players at this point, but I guess we'll have to see what happens next week when all of the matches happen.
Oh yeah, and that's gonna be one hectic weekend for sure.
We'll have to see. It's mostly a matter of can the lower seeded teams keep up with this difficulty, and that's probably going to be the main factor. Like sure, the low seeds and unseeds always have like that one stellar player that will usually do well on this pool, but it's a matter of how well can their teammates do. This pool is still not insanely hard. It's still something that people can keep up with, like average players, but it's definitely harder to get very good scores or notable scores on it. So yeah, I guess that sums it up. Do you want to say anything else, guys, before we close the stream?
I think that's about it. Definitely stay tuned for next week anyways, and check out the wiki if you haven't already. All the information will definitely be there, and I think schedules will probably be up in the next, I don't know, 2 to 3 days.
Should be done tomorrow, yeah.
That works even better. So yeah, definitely be on the lookout for that. And if you want to cheer on your favorite country, definitely check out those schedules. Make sure you attend their games anyways, and see who makes it out of groups next week.
Yep, we're gonna see you with the stream of the group stage for next weekend. We don't know yet when it's gonna start, but it's most likely gonna be Saturday on the morning. So, I mean, for the morning for me, it might be late night for Asia and afternoon for Europeans. But yeah, you're gonna check the schedules on the wiki. All the information will be there probably tomorrow, if not earlier. And that's it for us. We hope to see you again next weekend. Have fun and enjoy the tournament.
Yeah, definitely see you guys around. Stay tuned.